how is everybody doing, and welcome back to Disney Daily. Well, today's video is long overdue, but I promise worth the wait. It is part 2 of what would have happened if Scar raised Simba after the death of Mufasa. If you haven't seen the first part to this fan fiction or need a little refresher, I will leave a link to part 1 down in the description. Now, before I start, I want to preface by saying that in this version, Scar will not be headed to Pride Rock right away and take on the role as king like we see in the movie. Rather, Scar will take Simba far from his home and raise him away from his family and friends. Now, without further ado, here is part 2. The two lions continued to walk throughout the night, moving farther away from the Pride Lands. The moon lit up the grasslands and reflected off the watering hole nearby. It seemed to be that the only creatures accompanying the lions were the crickets in the tall grass chirping in unison and the wind whistling through the trees. But as they reached the Outlands, there was a piercing silence across the land and a sudden darkness that crept over the sky. It was something Simba had never experienced before. He felt empty, scared, and more alone than ever. Scar was a few feet ahead of Simba at this point, and the two had very different postures from one another. Scar, who had just succeeded at killing his own brother, held his head higher than usual, his eyes twinkling, his smile wide, and his thoughts clear. Simba, on the other hand, had his head hanging down by his paws, his ears were low, and tears began to form in his eyes. Simba began to replay the last moments his father was alive in his head, and he was instantly overcome with grief and despair. But just as Simba was consumed by his emotions, the sun began to rise. The two lions had walked all night long without even realizing it. Simba felt the warmth of the sun on his fur, and for a brief moment he felt calm. For Simba, the sun was something very special, and it reminded him of his father. For so many years, Mufasa would take Simba to the top of Pride Rock to look at the sun together. There, Simba would ask his father all his questions about life, whether it be about the kings of the past or about how he met his beautiful mother, Sarabi. This was a memory that Simba cherished, and for one split second, he felt at ease and safe. But the moment was not to last. Suddenly, Scar stopped, turning his head back to look at Simba. Just as the evil lion locked his eyes onto his nephew, he whispered, "We are here. Welcome to your new home, Simba." Simba looks up for the first time in hours and is shocked to his core by what he sees. The young cub is surrounded by nothing but bare land with no signs of green for as far as the eye can see. The air is full of a foul stench of rotting carcasses from the hyena's previous unfinished meals. His paws are covered in paste-like mud and ashes from fires that had occurred throughout the lands days before. Simba then turns to his uncle hesitantly and asks, "Uncle Scar, where do we sleep tonight?" The mischievous lion says nothing but points with his paw. Simba looks to his right and sees a huge cave with jagged rocks all along the sides and a bunch of gazelle skulls lining the entrance. He walks towards the cave with Scar and the two lions enter. As Simba begins to explore the cave, Scar tells Simba that it is time for his real training to begin and that he will soon learn what it means to become a true lion and leader. Scar's evil plan to turn Simba into his accomplice was actually happening, and Scar couldn't believe it, for he had dreamed of this day for years. He knew that the process was going to be slow and tedious, but that day by day he could slowly chip away at Simba's goodness and kindness. And little did the cub know that he wasn't just going to be an accomplice, but a killer someday. Well, that concludes this episode of Disney Daily. Please let me know if you enjoyed part 2 in the comments, and if you would like a part 3 sooner rather than later. As always, thanks for being my guest here at Disney Daily. Until next time.
Oh well, Hakuna Matata.